Hey everyone, Jesse with Local SEO Tactics. I wanted to let you know we've got a two-part episode on tap here for you. Part one here today, and the conclusion will drop next week. We originally cut this as one episode, but it got a little long. A lot of great information. We got pretty deep into some details here for you, and we just cut it up in two episodes just to make it a little bit more manageable. So get ready to take some notes. There's some great information here, and stay tuned next week for the conclusion. Enjoy. Hey everyone, Jesse Dolan and Bob Brennan here again with Local SEO Tactics. And this week we're going to be talking still about the on-page SEO for your website, going through our Intrix SEO audit report, using that as a guide to kind of help you walk through the steps here on what you're going to need to do to make sure your website is at least up to kind of the SEO 101 standards. Last week we were talking about how to choose a domain name, how to name your pages, the meta title, meta description, and kind of some of that initial stuff for how to get your pages and your website set up in general, kind of the framework, the foundation, if you will, for building the house as it relates to the website. And today we're going to build on that.
Today's topic can be a little dry. Yeah. Stick with it. We encourage you to stick with it because you may have to listen to several of these podcasts to get to a point where you feel comfortable enough doing this yourself. But the key is just absorb what you can, and do what you can. Yeah. And stay with us on these podcasts, because if you can stick with us, I guarantee you we'll give you enough tools that you'll get started. You're going to have to go, revisit this and do some of your own research, but nothing gives you a better return than taking the time on this. Right. I mean, if you take this same amount of time and you apply it to fantasy football or fantasy golf or whatever the deal is, it's just not going to give you the return. Nothing will give you a better return than this.
No, I think you're right. What we're communicating here is not sexy, right? It's just not. Right. There might be some things, some cool hacks and some intriguing things that you can pull out. But really, this is a course, and it can be kind of dry sometimes. If you're going to invest 15 to 20 minutes to listen to each of these episodes, you're probably going to have, 30 to 60 minutes each week of actionable work you can do. But listening to these, teasing out the information that's relevant for you and taking action is going to make a difference in your business. Right?
Oh, huge.
Or go pay somebody to do it too, right? I mean, if you don't want to do it yourself, at the very least, we can teach you what things somebody else should be doing for you. But if your business right now is not dominating on the top of the search engines, the advice that we're putting out here is going to get you there week by week. Right. Should we dump all this into some, 28-hour, marathon binge deal? No. Nobody's going to stick with that. It's, again, terribly unsexy. That's why we're picking a week-to-week format, short, quick episodes you can listen to while you're working out or on your way into work, and then take action, later in the week. Again, check the show page. We're going to have the transcript. You can download that. You can copy, paste out information, highlight things. Take the cheat sheets, the guides. We're trying to make this to be almost like a week-to-week class. I hate to use that word. Right. But kind of a week-to-week class on things that you can do to make a quick impact in your business.
I would say if you can, go ahead and get started with some of this now, because it's all about taking action and doing it. And in a lot of podcasts I listen to that are real heady and a lot of details, I'll grab a glass of wine or a beer and it's part of my way to relax and just try to take the information and then digest it, and then I'll come back and play it again, even if I have to. Absolutely. And then I can take action. So,
First, we're going to jump into talking about images and photos on your website. It's definitely a good piece of advice to have images and photos on your website in general, right? But you're going to want to use some images above the fold to catch people right away. And we say above the fold, kind of today it's more of above the scroll, right? So it's if you're on your laptop or your desktop, it'd be whatever you see initially when that page loads. If you have to scroll down, that's below the fold or below the scroll. Same thing on a mobile. As soon as that pops up, if you have to scroll up or scroll down, depending on how you want to look at it, things that you don't see immediately on the page are what we're talking about for being below the fold. So,
because it's really about, if I can jump in, it's just really about converting. There's two objectives we want to achieve here. One is to get the site to the top of Google, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
And the other is converting. So when somebody clicks on that, all that information above the fold, gives them a split-second ability to make a decision to
Right.
either continue on your site or even act on it and call or what have you.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit on some of the titles and headlines you'll use in the above the fold way and that same thing. But definitely for the images, a couple rules of thumb that we kind of subscribe to that we want to pass on to everybody else and highly recommend is make sure the image is relevant first and foremost, right? Whether it's, and this, we're not going to talk about video, but if you're going to use a video instead of an image, the same thing applies here. Make sure it's relevant to whatever it is the searcher's intent is for, right? So whenever we're searching for something and then we stumble across a web page, we're usually looking for an answer,
Yep.
you know, or taking the next step to our solution. So you don't always want to make sure you're featuring what you want to promote or what you want to push or what your agenda is. Always get in the mindset of that person on the other side of the keyboard. What are they looking for? Why are they here? And make sure the first visual image that they see kind of ties it all in together.
Yeah, I mean it really comes down to empathizing, right? And again, it's one of those things where you got to get inside the mind of the customer.
Right.
So it's as far as the visual goes, you know, if you're in the let's say auto repair business, probably best not to put a classic car up there for repair. I mean, you really want to throw in a contemporary vehicle like a minivan or something that more than likely an SUV or what have you that people own. So, you know, that's, while we may like the 66 Mustang, it's really empathizing, understanding your market and saying, okay, the majority of the market drives an SUV and it's foreign or whatever the case is. And so that if that visual ties in with that, that's really what you want to do.
Yeah, I think if, you know, you got the family truckster and that's what you need repair on, if you pull up a website and they're doing some, you know, 68 Camaro, it's kind of their featured deal. I might think maybe it's a classic repair
Free
shop.
bird!
or a restoration shop or something like that. Right. And like I said, it might turn you off. Again, you got, 2, 3, maybe 5 seconds for that first impression for the person that's visiting your website to decide if they're going to stay there or not.
Yeah.
You don't want to give them a reason to click back and go on to the next person down the search results. So definitely keep it relevant, like Bob's saying. Get inside the mind of that person and think about why they're there and make sure you're giving images that relate to them. Now, as far as where you're going to get the images, a lot of people, we get a lot of questions always, you know, can I just go out to Google, do like a Google image search, and if I find an image I like, can I copy it, save it, download it, and what have you? You can't do that.
Right. We found out the hard way.
Yeah, years back. Getty Images, anybody out there from Getty, if you're watching, you can thank us for the donation. We got tagged by them. We had to pay the piper. Kind of a rookie mistake many years ago. Yep. But it's not just Getty Images. If somebody's putting content out there on the internet, it's their content. Unless it's from a maybe like a free stock photography website, something where they say it's copyright free. You can't just go cowboy and use any image that you find out there. You should have the mindset that you either have to create your own images and photography or graphic files, or you're going to have to pay somebody, you know, for the use of them. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But back to if you're going to create your own images, completely fine to do. You like current iPhones, the resolution that's on them, or even point and shoot cameras is phenomenal compared to what it was even 2 or 3 years ago, let alone 5 or 6 years ago. You shouldn't be ashamed to take your own images. There's definitely a skill to it, right? To take a good photograph and a bad photograph. Myself versus a photographer, if we both had the same iPhone, photographer is going to take way better pictures than I am.
Right.
But that being said, don't let that hold you back.
Yeah, if you're just starting out, you know,
Right.
you got to get started. So, you know, get that out there. You can always go back, right? In either refine those photos,
Right.
take another photo shoot, ideally hire a professional if you can.
Right.
You know, but it's really get your toe in the door, get that site up there, get something that's the best you can do now.
Yep.
But then, you know, like everything else, you're going to constantly be improving this
Right.
and reinvesting in the site to get better conversion.
Right. We've worked with lots of customers who have taken their own photographs. Like literally we'll hang up the phone and say, go snap a few pictures of your receptionist desk or your shop area, whatever it is, and send them back to us and we'll use them and put them up there. One thing that we can definitely say if you're going to do your own stuff, if you're not a photographer, is be aware of the background. You know, taking the auto repair shop example again, if you're going to take a picture of a car up on the lift getting worked on, make sure the floor, whatever's in the background, isn't a bunch of rusty tools and rags and oil and stuff, whatever. I mean, be aware of the entire image that the person is going to see. So you might need a couple minutes to maybe set the stage or clean some things up before you snap those photos. And then lighting. You really can't have enough lighting always. There's tricks you can do to enhance a photograph later after you take it. But really, if you can just make sure you got some decent lighting and the general area behind the image and behind whatever you're taking is clean and not too distracting,
right,
you're gonna be in great shape. Usually what we find is after you take that photograph, you'll crop into a certain part, right? You don't use the whole photograph as it was. You kind of zero in on something that's more attractive or germane to it. But if your image is great, again, just like Bob is saying, don't sweat the details too much. Get it up there. The awesome part about a website is you can change it tomorrow. You can change it in 15 minutes if you find something better or take a better photograph. So don't worry about getting it perfect the first time.
Right.
Get it up there. You can always change and improve upon it later. So, and
I'll throw a couple caveats out there.
Sure.
So when I was first starting out in business, I was so proud to get my first shop to work out of, and I don't know. I think we put it on even on our site, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's, you're proud of your shop, it may not be the best thing to help convert people, so to speak. So, we're going to get into talking about stock photo, and I think there are times where stock photo is actually better than some of the stuff we're talking about.
Absolutely.
So be real careful there. Again, I know a lot of us business owners, we've worked hard to get that building or whatever the case is, but if it isn't, let's say the absolute top-notch, building, but it serves its purpose, you may have better results converting with stock photography.
Right.
So we'll get into that.
Right. And I think that kind of plays into what I was saying too, for kind of really being tight on an image. If you go back to that example of a car up on the hoist, for taking a picture, you don't want to step back. You don't have to get the whole shop, maybe the garage door, the tool bench in the background, the workbench and all that, and the entire car and the lift. You just need to kind of maybe zero in on the oil, coming out in the oil pan, or you're wanting to show the services or the processes or some of the tools used, kind of really those zoomed in type views, which is a little counterintuitive to what we think of. Like I said, especially as business owners, we want to show you the building and the name on the front and my team and all this stuff. That's not as relevant for people. And even more to Bob's point, which is where I'm going with this, is it doesn't look as attractive sometimes, right?
Right.
So a screwdriver is a screwdriver. It's hard to not be an attractive screwdriver compared to another one. So kind of a tight cropped in image on things like that are always going to look good, versus the whole shop, background, because that may tell a little bit too much of the story sometimes.
Yeah, and I would just throw in there too that, if we're talking about just quick services that are going to be sub $1,000 or whatever, this is where I think stock photography and these kind of things kind of come into play. It's about these people making a quick decision.
Yep.
And looking at those images. Now, if you're going to go above that, and you're talking about services like architecture and design and things like that, that's a whole different animal.
Absolutely.
We'll probably get into more detail on another podcast on that. But yes, those images have to be exemplary or whatever the term is.
Right. Yeah, that's a great term. So if you guys out there listening to this, if you're unsure, if you kind of go through this exercise, take your own photos, put them up on your website. If you're not sure if it looks good enough, couple things. One, ask friends and family, shoot an email around, pull it up, show people however you can, just say, what do you think? And don't, maybe even preface it to them, don't sugarcoat this. I'm not asking you to tell me that this looks awesome. I want to know, if you didn't know me, would you be turned on or turned off by what you're seeing here, and get some honest feedback. But definitely give them that disclaimer, because friends and family usually want to pump you up, like, oh, Bob, you got a new shop. Good for you. Yeah, that photo looks great.
Right.
May not be very true.
Right. And that's where strangers come in. So be careful there. Ask strangers, but they may look at you a little weird. But but ask them to say, hey, if you need auto repair, what would this site mean to you?
Right.
And hey, I wouldn't take it there for this reason, or it's great or whatever. And strangers will do that because they have no horse in the race. So.
Right. To put it out on Facebook. Yeah. Just however you can get the word out there, for that feedback. You're not going to be the one coming to your website for this product or service, right? You have the curse of knowledge. There's just no way you're going to make the best decision on it all. You want to get that feedback from as many people as you can. The other thing you can do, if you want, we can take a look at it for you, right? So on our show page, intrix.com/show, for each episode, you can go down, you can give us a feedback form, give us a link to your website.
Yeah.
Say, hey guys, I took some pictures, I threw it up on my website. what do you think? Would you change anything? Give me your feedback. I mean, we're here to help. That's the whole point of doing this show and getting ourselves out there, is to engage with you guys and help you out. So we're here also for that kind of feedback if you want it. So, so now moving on to stock photos. It's always good. We like having real photographs, of your business or your people or your processes on your website. Sometimes you can tell when a website is just full of stock photography. So you want to walk that balance of, kind of like Bob's saying, you want it to look good. Then you maybe sometimes with that looking good, you want to lean towards a stock photography if your stuff isn't quite good enough. But you also want to blend in, like, hey, we're a real shop. We're not just using the same images everybody else is on our website here, some canned artwork. So you want to kind of blend that in, but there's definitely a space, no matter what, for stock photography. Most of the stuff out there is from real photographers, great images, and it's not that expensive.
Photography is, these photos are a way for organizations to look bigger than they are, and you know what I mean, or better.
Yeah.
Now, you don't want to mislead people, but that's what's nice about some of the photography. You can look, much classier, much bigger than you are.
So there's tons of stock photography websites out there, copyright free, where you can, buy a subscription, or even buy individual images if you find just one that you want and you don't need a subscription for month to month or things like that. Something that you do want to be aware of when you're choosing stock photography is maybe not having the exact same leading image that your competitor has, right? The thing about stock photography versus taking your own photos is anybody could technically have access to the exact same photographs, right? So, maybe for kind of two important reasons, do some searching before you're paying for these images. Number one, see what other people are using.
Right.
You're going to want to stack up to the competition. And number two, don't use the same images that other people are already using. So,
yeah, and that's what's neat about stock photography. If you do it correctly, you can make your organization look a lot bigger, a lot better,
right,
a lot more polished. If you're just starting out. And again, we use that analogy. If you're just starting out and it's a small shop or it's a small organization and you're not as refined as some of the big organizations, again, it's that image. You have a short period of time. You've got to create that great image that people are saying, you know what, I'm going to call them. And we'll get into that detail once they start calling you, because there's another kind of a 2-3 step process.
Yep.
When people call you, you better know what to say, how to say it, and all that is about converting these folks into your business. But it all starts right with the image.
Yep.
And if that image can look world class, that's great. But again, if you have no budget and you got to start somewhere, you can use a camera. But if you want to bring that up to the next level and help with the conversion process, great stock photography can make you look like a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, I would say fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
So, again, look at maybe what some of the big players in your marketplace, do some local searches, see what else is showing up. If that's who you're going to be competing with and trying to attract customers from those places, make sure you're going to be standing up to it with your images. And again, your stock photography is a great way to do that. So now moving on, let's just say you choose your photographs, right? Either you took them yourself or you downloaded some stock photography. Now you're going to put them on your website. There's a couple key things that you need to know. One is the size of the image. I mean, most images are going to be, 2,000 or 3,000 pixels wide by however many pixels tall. They're big images. They take a while to download, especially once you start getting into the mobile arena. Speed is definitely very, very important. So before you just take that image and throw it up on your website, you're going to want to resize it or even optimize it for web downloading and web viewing. There's some different online tools that you can use to do that. Just an effort to save time. We're going to link to some of those in the show notes. What those resources are going to show you is optimal sizes. And when I say size, I don't mean, 8 inches wide by 5 inches tall. We're talking about the actual file size, right? Which translates into how quickly it'll download onto the user's device. You're going to find out what sizes are optimal and then some resources to be able to convert those images. If you're a user of like Adobe Photoshop or some applications like that, you can do the same process there yourself. We'll throw in the show notes for that too, some quick links to how to do that as well. And then that optimized or that compressed image is what you're going to want to use to load onto your website. Does two important things. One, for the user, the faster it loads, the more likely they're going to stay on your page. I think we've all been to a website where we clicked on it. It looked good from the Google search engine results page, but we click on it. Takes 3 seconds. It's not loading yet. There's an image stalling out.
Right.
I'm gone. Yeah. You're back. You're on to the next one.
Right.
Now you don't like what you see. From a user standpoint, that's extremely relevant. Well, guess what? From the Google bot and the crawlers standpoint, they see that as well. They want to make sure that they're serving up in the rankings the pages that are optimized, right? So if you got a page that's really, really slow to load, you're going to see a slow and steady erosion of what your rankings are. Images are going to be one of the largest parts of your web page that loads, right? There's lots of code, there's other stuff on the website, but your images are going to be the biggest files usually. There's obviously exceptions to the rule, but usually that's your biggest file that's going to load on that website. Definitely requires some attention to make sure you're managing that properly, because it definitely directly impacts your search engine rankings and your SEO. So
yeah, because speed is in the formula of SEO. I mean, speed is
it's up there in the priorities. I mean,
it's in the top 8 priorities.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no one thing and there's no published ranking order.
Right.
But yeah, if you're going to list them, A, B, C type deal, it's an A priority.
Yeah, and in the world of mobile, which everything is going towards, right? Like probably 80% of searches right now are in some form of mobile.
Yep.
It's even more important.
Absolutely.
Because it's not everybody's on Wi-Fi. It gets complicated, but basically speed's an important part of this.
2 other quick things about managing your images the right way and load them onto your website. One is going to be the file name. The last episode we talked about how to name your pages of your website. So Google will, look at your domain name plus the actual file name, page name of your website. If you have your keyword in there, that's going to be pretty good. Same thing is true of your image, right?
Right.
So if I got an image of red balloons, that I took a picture of and I want to use that on my website, if I have my camera and I save it to my computer, it's going to be like, image 1 or image 312 or whatever it is, some default file name. If I upload that image, after properly optimizing it, of course, and shrinking it down, if I upload that image and use it on my website, on the website, that file name comes with it, right?
Right.
Us as users, we don't really see that. That's in the background. But the search engines, they see this web page contains this image, and this image name is, image 1 or image 312. That's okay. It's not going to hurt anything, but it doesn't do anything positive for you as it relates to your SEO. Now, if you renamed that image before you uploaded it and saved it as red-balloons, the search engines, it's red balloons, right? They read those keywords. Back to our auto shop example, oil change, right? If the car's up on the hoist and the picture is of an oil change in progress, name the image oil change. That's a very relevant keyword to what the image is for, and that's what you're going to be found for in search engines. A second benefit to that is Google image search. And when we say Google, I mean Bing, every other search engine too, right?
Right.
You can do searches for web pages or searches for images. If you properly name your images in the convention that we're talking about, your images are going to show up in that image search as well, right? Nobody's going to find your picture for red balloons if it's not called red balloons. It's just not going to happen. So,
well, and a quick question I have, Jess, with the oil naming the image, and you talked about it being called oil change. Could you go so far as to say diesel oil change or foreign car oil change? I mean, does that?
Absolutely.
It's really about driving it towards. If you're a diesel specialist or you're, a foreign car specialist,
yep.
that kind of a title is going to help with the SEO specifically for that type of work that you're doing.
Yeah. Common best practices are you're going to want to keep the size of that file name to maybe 30 to 40 characters or less.
Okay.
Right. So you don't want a paragraph as the name of what that image is, but absolutely, if you want to be more descriptive than just that oil change, it's going to help. Put some thought into it. Like we keep saying, do everything on purpose. Don't just randomly name it oil changes. Think about what page am I going to put this on? What am I wanting this page to be found for? What do I want my business to be found for? And if you work on imports versus classic cars or whatever, absolutely include that in the name of that photograph. In addition to the actual name of that picture, there's also called an alt tag. So if anybody's ever been to a website and maybe there was a missing image, right? You get a little border box and maybe a little broken image icon, and you'd see some text, right? So in this case, let's just say it was oil change and not not more descriptive. But in this case, if for some reason the image was broken on my website and I uploaded it and it was oil change as the name of the image, and then I'm going to use oil change as also the alt tag, and that's ALT tag. You're going to see the word oil change there where that broken image is, right? So the alt tag does two things. One, it's a cue to search engines for more descriptive information. This is not the technical explanation. This is just kind of a general explanation here. It's a trigger to the search engines for more descriptive information about what the image is. And then also for us users, when we see it on the website, if the image is gone, we're still going to see that text. Not the greatest thing to have your image broken and gone, but if it's going to be gone, you might as well still see a phrase that's relevant to what it is you're searching for. So again, when it comes down to it, I'll say it one more time, get into the mind of that person on the other end of the keyboard. What are they there for? What are they searching for? Those are the things you want to communicate and relay to them, and do it on purpose. Don't ever just go by whatever the default was or just leave those fields and file names as is. Put some thought into it and do it on purpose, and you're gonna be very well served. All right, I think that is the perfect place to take a break. We'll call that a wrap on part 1 of this 2-part episode. Hopefully there's some things that you pulled out of today's episode that you can apply to your website. We're going to have lots of great information next week to kind of wrap this topic up. If you have any questions for us, or if you have any feedback for us, we'd love to hear it. Go to intrix.com/show, drop us a line. And if you're listening on iTunes, we'd love for you to give us a review. We've actually got a couple of reviews so far, and I'm excited to share one with you right now. This is kind of exciting for us, sharing our first reviews. So first one here we got is a 5-star review from Core Security Consulting. Headline says, "Great info in a manageable time." And they say, "Information is relevant, actionable, and easy to understand even for a layman like myself. I particularly like the length of the episodes, which make them manageable and not as overwhelming as some others I've listened to." So awesome. Thanks. That's exactly what our intent is. We hope we can give you good bite-sized chunks of episodes each week that you can take some notes on and actually implement some strategies here. So so awesome. Thank you for the reviews. This is amazing, and we appreciate the feedback. So once again, stay tuned next week for part 2 of this episode, and we'll talk to you then.